These young boys thought us OGs is washed, so we had to bring back the cons on their ass. Word up.
Alright, you kids get to bed, I get the storybook.
The Decepticons slide for Buckshot. Chapter 1. Things viraled out of control. In the streets of Flatbush, Brooklyn, Buckshot Shorty, an iconic rapper from the 90s rap group Black Moon and co-founder of the rap conglomerate Boot Camp Click, ran into a teenage Bloods gang member named Block G one day while attempting to run squatters away from a building he had recently purchased. Block G, feeling emboldened, confronted the nearly 50-year-old MC over allegations that the rapper snitched on his brother, one of the squatters, leading to his arrest. The confrontation quickly turned violent as Block G, standing 6'1", attacked the smaller, older man, who was popular streamer Kai Cenat's height. This beatdown was live-streamed on his Instagram account, with Buckshot's reputation being questioned by a younger, less loyal generation. Within hours, the brutal footage went viral on social media. Hip-hop fans, critics, and artists alike were appalled and enraged, with some questioning how a respected icon could be treated with such disdain on the streets of his hometown. Reactions poured in from across the country, fueling discussions about the changing dynamics of street respect and the shifts between generations. Chapter 2. Blood Gang bragging. Members of the William Red Blood set, based out of the William Reed housing projects in East Flatbush, publicly claimed responsibility for the beatdown, with a younger member bragging online the same way Osama bin Laden and the Taliban did when claiming responsibility for 9/11. They felt empowered, seeing it as a moment to gain clout on social media and in the streets. Chapter 3. The cons make phone calls across New York City and beyond. Former members of the Decepticons, an old NYC street gang that was notorious in the 80s and 90s for using various weapons like box cutters and brass knuckles to unsuspecting victims on the streets, heard of the attack. Though older now, many in their late 40s and 50s, these men felt compelled to respond, having already been frustrated with the influx of new gangs like the Bloods, Crips, and GDs in New York, all originally from other states and regions like Los Angeles and Chicago, that New York kids decided to copy and incorporate into the 5 boroughs. Various phone calls were made across the city. The old network stirred, and former members contemplated whether they should take action. Chapter 4. Respect and Legacy. Buckshot's close friends, Rock, aka Rockness Monster, one half of the super rap duo, Helter Skelter, and General Steele from the legendary rap group Smith & Wesson, both members of the legendary hip-hop outfit called the Boot Camp Click, became vocal advocates for a response as leaders of this newly formed 21st century Decepticons. As youth, both men had been members of the original gang, alongside now deceased groupmate Sean Ruck Price.
Where that's coming from. There's no honor. Nobody can take an ass whooping anymore. So
Rest
your
in peace
best bet is
to
always
my nigga Sean Price. He would have slapped the shit out of somebody.
But then there's that.
But here.
And remember its glory days on the streets of Brooklyn. They talked about the importance of defending Buckshot, not only as a friend, but as a pillar of the community. Rock and Steele called dozens of aging Decepticons, Deceptinettes, and Watercons to gather for a serious discussion about retaliation at a warehouse in Coney Island owned by one of the former cons, who used the building for his carpet business. Chapter 5. The meeting in the huge warehouse over 200 Decepticons, now fathers, husbands, and community members, came together for the first time in years. Buckshot's friends, Rock and Steel, addressed the crowd, sharing their perspectives on respect, brotherhood, and why this situation required action. The meeting culminated in a decision. They will show the younger generation that certain codes and boundaries still matter and would use any force necessary to do so. Chapter 6. Training the Soldiers. Realizing that they aren't as young as they used to be, some Decepticons began training, working out and refreshing skills to prepare for any confrontation that might occur. There was a sense of nostalgia mixed with purpose, and many reflected on how things had changed since their time on the streets back in the 80s and 90s. Everyone pitched in, bringing whatever weapons they had, and stashed them all in an empty room at the warehouse, which had turned into a central command for the operation.
Listen, because it keep coming up on my YouTube. I'm not watching all the videos, so I'm asking you guys, why does it keep dragging? This happened to him. I saw that he had a concussion, a broken nose, all this stuff. But then I also read something about gang activity.
Chapter 7. Reaching out to the streets. The new Decepticons reached out to local allies, including influential members of the hip-hop community, to spread the word. They wanted to make it clear to the younger generation that they're not to be fucked with. Rumors began to circulate, making the William Red Bloods aware of what might be coming, and their attitude was,
"Fuck them old niggas, son. We'll boom every one of them fools if they pull up."
Chapter 8. The Day of Reckoning. Rockness. Monster announced the date that his new Decepts would invade the park that the Bloods frequented daily. The OGs didn't want to surprise the young boys, and even hoped that they would call a truce and come apologize for their wrongdoing. Only half of the new Decepticons actually showed up that Tuesday afternoon at the park, most claiming they couldn't find babysitters or had no time off from their jobs, but 100 cons, all strapped with blicks, box cutters, bats, and even stun guns, gathered early that afternoon, some carpooling to East Flatbush and arriving at the park across from the William Reed housing projects. The neighborhood took notice, and locals began hurriedly going inside of their homes before the gunshots started going off. Chapter 9. Showdown at the park. The Bloods all came down the block and entered the park slowly. There were only 23 members in the William Red set, so they reached out to friends and members in fellow Blood sets across Brooklyn and told them,
"Some old niggas from the 80s is pressing us about some old washed rapper named Buckshot or some shit like that, bro."
These bozos didn't even know the correct name of the person they'd initially jumped on that started this whole thing, and how influential his song, "Who Got the Props," was to hip-hop culture when it dropped back in late '92. The Bloods number totaled 49 gangsters, barely half the size of the new Decepticons, but they were all young and cocky, so they didn't care. Most had already popped mad pills and got lit off of exotic weed, so they were ready for all the smoke coming their way. The Decepticons calmly approached them as they sauntered up, led by Rock and Steel. In an intense, verbal face-off, Rockness stood over the teenagers, looking down at them from his 6'5" frame, making a powerful speech about respect and how his generation bled for the streets, explaining how the attack on Buckshot was a major violation. Chapter 10. It's over now. Under pressure and outnumbered, the younger gang members began to fidget in their hoodies, most of them wearing poo shiesty masks. Unexpectedly, a member from Block G's set pulled out a glizzy with an extended clip, but he fumbled with the large weapon, not knowing how to rack it back properly, which caused one of the new Decepts to swing an aluminum baseball bat that his son used for Little League and connected with the young gangster's jaw, cracking it into shards, the jaw bones loosely moving around in his mouth as if he was chewing on ice cubes, as blood, spit, and pieces of his teeth flew everywhere. As the youngster started wailing and crying for his mommy, Block G and most of the other Bloods started holding their hands up in peace as the Decepts started aiming their blicks at the group. Block G made his way to the front of the crowd and offered an apology to Buckshot, realizing that the older generation still held significant sway over the community. The older men stood tall, as the younger ones showed a measure of respect, if not out of fear, then out of reverence. Chapter 11. The Apology. Steele called Buckshot and gave him a rundown of what just happened. The Decepts made the Bloods all wait at the park until he arrived, pulling up on a side street in his BMW. Block G was made to pull out his phone and live stream an apology to Buckshot for the beating that caused all of this drama. With that, the conflict was settled. Most of the Decepticons left, thankful that they didn't have to go to the extremes, though they left behind a reminder of the importance of respect. The streets of Brooklyn seemed changed in a subtle way, as younger gangs became vocal on social media about street boundaries and codes. Chapter 12. A Lesson for All. Buckshot, Rock, and Steele all got on Rock's YouTube channel and reflected on the experience. Though they didn't want to resort to violence, they hoped the young blood that got hurt learned a lesson, honor, and mutual respect in their communities. The story of the confrontation became a local legend, with Buckshot and the Decepticons standing against disrespect, celebrated as a powerful statement of generational strength and unity. Young rappers and gang members alike reflected on the importance of respecting those who came before them, understanding that honor and loyalty are values that transcend time.
Yo, y'all want to see more shit from the new Decepts? If so, let us know down in the comments, bro. Niggas is old now and have wisdom, so we might need to clean up the city or some shit. You heard?